Awesome. Welcome to the Conscious Experience. My name is Boris Kerjner. I'm here with my friend Mike Yap, and today we're talking about anxiety in relationships and anxiety in life, navigating this world consciously through empowered perspectives. Mike, how are you, brother?
I'm doing okay. To be honest, my energy is a little bit low because I got something in my eye, and it's crazy because when you get something like in your body and it like infects it, your whole body kind of uses energy to try to get that out. But other than that, I feel great. Yeah, healthy and strong. How about you?
I love it, man. I'm doing great. I've landed in a new town. I'm in Burbank now. So excited for our conversation today. I think it's a very, very important and relevant one to many people. Like, how do we actually deal with anxiety? Something starts to go on inside of us and it throws our world out of whack.
This is going to be amazing. Why don't we start off with the question that obviously to kick it off. So, what is anxiety, Boris?
Yeah. I would say that anxiety is a very specific state of mind, one in which you are considering the future. You're kind of holding the future in your mind, but in a very negative light. It's essentially this sense that the future is going to be worse off than it is now. There's going to be something that is worse or lacking or something like that. And this is the second important ingredient, is that I won't be able to handle it. Like, I will not have the wherewithal, the resources to be able to handle it skillfully in a way that produces growth and well-being. That's how I would say this, that sense of anxiety is looking to the future with a negative expectation of both the experience and yourself.
Yeah, and in a way, you're kind of while you're doing that, you're kind of sabotaging yourself, right? You're like purposely like scaring and creating fear within yourself. So, why do you think people get anxiety then? If it's so simple, like if they can just know that it's themselves thinking about something in the future that's not as good as right now, what do you think causes like anxiety? I think the biggest form of anxiety would be like social anxiety, maybe being around people, or some sort of like relationship anxiety. I think when people are alone, maybe they're less anxious, but I could be wrong there too. I guess it
Yeah.
depends where your mind goes, right?
Yeah, I think that the reason that we experience anxiety has to do a lot more with this entire game, this world, this, we may say, the play of illusion, Maya, in the sense that it does not appear like we are just using thoughts to scare ourselves. It appears like there's literally issues and problems that are happening in the world, and they're all very immediate, they're all very present, they're all really right here. And then the second part, I would say, just also of what anxiety is, because we talked about like what is its, so to speak, like inception, like what is the core driving mechanism. But anxiety also, I guess, that state produces a physiological response in the body, which makes it so real. So the physiological response is very distinct. Whenever you experience anxiety, you basically start to shift your physiology in this way. Number one is that your prefrontal cortex goes offline. Let's say if it's operating at 100% capacity, which I think very rarely any of us are, um, it goes from 100 to maybe like 10%, and all of the blood flow gets redirected right here to what's called our hindbrain, to the brain stem, to that more reactive, animalistic part of ourselves. It is called the amygdala. And that one is concerned only with one thing: survival. It's not concerned with your happiness, not with your well-being, not with making great decisions, literally just surviving this moment to the next moment to the next moment. So when that is happening on our, like, in our cognition, that we are already deeply compromised. We already don't have the wherewithal typically to be like, okay, well, what is actually happening? Like, this is just a thought. We don't see that because the body is reacting as if like there's an imminent threat. The mind is showing us that it is. And so there's this deep self-confirming experience. And then we take an action from there. And that action will be something like, you take some kind of anxious action to protect yourself, to attack the supposed problem, and that confirms it all. Like, there's a saying that says faith without works is dead, but so is fear without works is dead. But we do the works. That means we take action from the point of our anxiety and we prove to ourselves that it's true. And there, at that point, it's almost like every part of the dream confirms to you that something bad is really happening and you have no control.
Wow. So do you think that worry causes anxiety? Was one of my questions while you were speaking. And then the other one is, I guess what is the benefits of anxiety? There must be a reason for this mechanism. You might have touched in on it a little bit. Does it cause us to like take action, or yeah, what are
Yeah.
your thoughts on that? So
I
one is worry synonymous with anxiety, or are there other things that people can relate with that causes anxiety? Because if you just think to yourself, again, the first step is, I guess, becoming aware of it, right? So am I worrying about something? Is that fair to say? Or do
I
other
think
things cause
so.
anxiety?
I think worry is the mental activity of anxiety, which is just basically like, oh, what if this? And again, that projection of the negative expectation of yourself, other, and the situation, right? That's the worrying. Like, what if that doesn't work out? And then you start to work against it mentally. And you're like, oh, what if I just do this? What if I said that to them? And this kind of worry is a mental activity. But we also need to admit that the fact that some people are not even aware of mental activity when anxiety comes on. It could literally be just like a panic attack, literally. So, which is that the body is expressing anxiety. You may not even have a conscious clue about what is the storyline or what's triggering it. Sometimes people even just become aware of their bodily sensations and experience anxiety. Like, something is going on, maybe their heart rate goes up, and they don't really see the first part of like what they were thinking or what the context was, but they experience this, and then in this turns our awareness inwards, and it's like something's wrong with me right now, and then it just amplifies. So we have those two corollaries. I think that worry is like that mental activity. There is certainly an emotional, energetic activity, and then there is a very deep physiological activity that are all related to the state.
Yeah, I can now like relate a lot, because the only times that I really get anxiety is if I'm around somebody who's really anxious. And I
Mm.
think that's what I tell people is known as like entrainment. It's like so subtle that we don't really realize, but I feel like it's like the way their heart is beating and the way that they are breathing naturally, if it's very powerful, like very energetic, will affect me. And I like those situations because then I try to use like my yogic powers of like breathing and seeing if I can change my heart rhythm to then ease or calm the situation just naturally. So yeah,
Yeah.
it's a good distinction between those.
And it's very powerful what you're saying because we do very much influence each other. The thing is that whoever is more conscious can have a greater influence. It's just very typically like we can be conscious of anxiety, but we are not conscious necessarily of like, oh, what if I change my state? What if I hold my state? What if I start to like vibrate in a different, let's say, energy or whatever it is? That is the space where we can really do some of those yogic experiments that you're talking about, Mike, is just like, can we be the peace in the situation? Can we, slow down the conversation? Can we slow down the breath rate? Can we help them entrain? Very typically, though, if there is no one who is conscious at that level of like this experience, I can influence. I can bring something to it. Then the whoever's got the anxiety typically spreads that anxiety to everybody, and then we have this like mob experience, right? This like, you know. But yeah, very powerful. Of course, we can be literally the change in that experience.
Nice. I like that. Yeah. We can be the peace, and then we can be the word guru often stands for like heaviness or weight. And that weight or that heaviness is able to entrain those around it. So that's amazing.
Ability. Yeah.
Yeah. Boris, can you think of some examples of like maybe maybe romantic relationship anxiety, and what might cause that, and maybe how to deal with that?
Yeah. Gosh, I feel like the relationship anxiety conversation can really uh, kind of be founded on the attachment styles conversation. Because with attachment styles, it's really like if our viewers don't know, I'm going to explain very briefly. Attachment styles is the way that we form relationships, our primary relationships. So when we were just little kids, we formed a relationship with our parent. The moment that we realized that we are separate, our relationship was necessary. So that relationship, that attachment, that sense of relating to each other, could take on a number of particular flavors or adaptations. So there is something called anxious attachment, right, or ambivalent attachment, and the perfected version is secure attachment.
That's me, I think. So naturally, I believe I resonated with that most of my life.
Yeah, so there's ambivalent, anxious. What's the third one? There's secure, there's ambivalent, and then there is
I just call it avoidant attachment, but
yeah,
it's like
avoidant. Yes.
something like that. Yeah.
Yes. So here's the very basic schematic of this. Like somebody with anxious attachment, they're looking for certainty in relationship. So and that's because that level of the attachment style develops because the parents are inconsistent. Like the child may be asking for something and sometimes they get it, sometimes they get a shoe thrown at them. Sometimes the parent is there, sometimes the parent's not there. Sometimes they're conscious, sometimes they may be intoxicated with something. And so the child is not really sure what to expect. There is no certainty. And as an adult, the coping mechanism, let's say, the coping mechanism for uncertainty is like, I have to have absolute certainty. How do I get absolute certainty? And this is the core of relationship anxiety, because absolute certainty is absolutely unavailable in any human relationship. But it turns into this conversation of like, is it this way or that way? Is it like black or white? Whose fault is it? Is it your fault or my fault? Like it has this very strong definitiveness, whereas life is not really like that. Relationships are not really like that. Relationships, as we talked about in our other conversation, it's like relationships are this co-creative experience where we come in and both of our energy, just like also what you were sharing, Mike, is like in that anxiety space where we influence each other. Every experience is one where we influence each other. So the anxiety in relationship really comes from this sense of like, okay, well, like, does he love me 100%? Am I 100% safe? Am I getting my 100% of my needs met? And this kind of space, it always kind of makes you feel like I'm not getting what I need, or you're always on the lookout. You start to judge your partner. You start to feel like, oh, look, this is a sign that maybe they're not going to give me 100% security, 100% safety. So this, I would say, is like really the core of anxiety in relationships. And then we have the avoidant style, which is just, it's basically formed in a way where it's just like the parent is not safe. So we typically start to withdraw more and more into ourselves. And the avoidance style in relationship doesn't look so much like anxiety, but it can provoke anxiety in its partner. It just looks like, oh, intense independence. Like, I don't need you. I'm just totally fine by myself. I don't need anybody. But to your partner, because what relationship is like this dance, and at least at a very human level, there is this desire to be needed, to be wanted, to be like acknowledged in your existence. And the avoidant pattern may not necessarily give that. And so we have this like essentially push pull of like, am I okay again? Like, is this all going to be okay? And that is the root of anxiety. And so the same worry gets projected, the same biological responses, physiological responses get activated. And so we're, we might need to have a drink, or we need to have a smoke. We need to try to distract ourselves, etc.
Yeah. That's amazing. And you gave me a perspective, because I, again, identify as being anxious attached for a lot of my relationships. And you mentioned, like, is it again, am I safe? And somebody who needs to know like left from right. But I also see it as the anxiety I can relate to now is the anxiety to please. So that person is always wanting to like please the other person to make them like them, because they need that attention or whatever it is. And so that definitely causes anxiety, right? Like the anxiety to always want to serve or please or to make your partner happy, which is a never ending game that will never fulfill it.
It creates a sense of like both like self-judgment and also projected judgment, in a sense like, I really want to please you. And you just like see like a look, or the person's upset, or the person's just like, they just have their own experience, and you make it very much about you. And then you're in your own turmoil, you're in your own anxiety about like, oh, what happened? What did I say? What did I do? And all of that starts to kind of grow and spin in your mind.
Yeah, that's crazy. Okay. Maybe we can talk about, so there's a lot going on in people's minds. And in order to deal with that, we first have to figure out how we can actually figure out this puzzle, which is anxiety. So I think you mentioned once that the first step is just to bring awareness to it. Can you maybe let people know how they can do that?
Yeah, this is the first and could be the last step if we can turn up the light of awareness bright enough. Okay, because what do I mean? Bring awareness to what? To what is? like what is actually happening. We can have many thoughts about what's happening. Like right now, I'm sitting here in a forest, and I could be, the truth of the moment is that like I'm completely safe. There's nobody coming at me left or right or anywhere. Like Mike's keeping an eye on it too.
Yeah.
So like I can feel like, okay, well right now actually there is no threat present. But what happens in anxiety is that we sit right here in the same place where there is no threat present, and a memory comes, and it's like, or like a decision point. This is another point of anxiety, is like to make a decision about what we're doing. What's your own yes and no? By the way, I really feel, and I'd like to come to this one, like I feel like the core of anxiety is in our ambivalence about our own yes and no's, about like what's really true. What is our authentic expression? So, but anyway, so we sit here, and this starts to create this inner conflict. They're like, oh, I really want to please them, but what I want to do is I want to go left and they want to go right. And all of this starts happening. And now you forgot that you're in a forest. You forgot that you're safe. You are literally just caught up. You may still be moving. You may still be like brushing your teeth, or you may be eating. You may be moving around in your actual moment. But in here, in your awareness, in your consciousness, you are not conscious of this. Instead, you are conscious of this conversation, this imaginal conversation, this like inner dialogue that you're having that's supposedly with multiple people, or you're trying to like. So you're bringing awareness to this. I am thinking right now. What is true? The truth is I am having thoughts. The truth is that I am in this beautiful, safe environment. The truth is that I'm sitting on a chair right now. The truth is that I'm breathing. And as you do this seems maybe nonsensical. You're like, oh, well, yeah, what's the point? But no, it's the most powerful thing. So let's slow down here. What happens is, number one, on a very basic level that science would be able to identify, is that when we name things, when we name what we are aware of, this brings on our prefrontal cortex back online. This is very important. It's a way of like, basically imagine that you're plugging back into the socket. You're like resourcing yourself. So as you say like, oh, light, computer screen, ceiling, chair, what happens is that slowly these connections are coming back online, because we can only name and identify things from our prefrontal cortex in this way, in this conceptual way, linking concepts to our experience. It comes back online, you start to catch a little bit more, and you say, okay, so I'm just literally just having thoughts. This thought, and this is where you can go to the next level, but it's still the same thing of bringing awareness to it. This thought about the future, is it true? We might say, oh, yes, it's true. But is it absolutely true? Do I know with the certainty of God that if I say this, she will say that? Or if I say this, he will say that? Or if I choose this, I will be abandoned? Do you actually know the future with the certainty of God? Typically, most egos in this point would be like, truthfully, I don't know. I don't really know, And then you say, well, but then if you don't know, you say this to yourself, well, if I don't really absolutely know, why am I spending this time to invest my thought into an idea that I don't like? I don't like the way it feels. I don't want it to happen. Not looking for it. It's creating this sense of discomfort in me. What is one peaceful or one beneficial reason for me to continue this? You listen. You're going to find probably none. And this is, so these questions are not necessarily in and of themselves very important. But what's important is that we question our experience in such a way as basically to say, what is true right now? What is actually happening? Because I bet you this one thing, in every moment of now, you are completely safe. Like you will have food and water, and you will have breath. You will have everything that you need in this moment. If you are here with me, everything that you need is already provided for you. So there's literally, the truth is that in this moment, there is no anxiety possible, because every need is actually fulfilled. But in the mind, in the projected sense of our character and personality, in a storyline world where it's like, I came from there, I'm going here, I'm going to, right now I'm trying to figure this out. There you can live in endless anxiety. So what we're talking about here is illuminating that world with awareness, saying, well, this is a thought world. Where am I actually? I'm actually here. okay, this thought world that I'm working with, do I like it? Is it absolutely true? Is there a beneficial, peaceful, inspiring reason for me to continue this? Just by doing this, if the answer is no, you will drop it. You will drop it because you are now aware that you're holding like a hot coal. Why hold it? Yeah.
I love that. And at the last part, you mentioned something which is physical, which people can relate to. I think once you mentioned thoughts are not as obvious, but if you take your hand and like every time you have I think you mentioned like you're slapping it or something. Do you remember that? You're like slapping it and you're like, do I want to continue hurting myself? Is like one of the questions. No, but we don't do that with our mental thoughts because they just keep coming and it's just, yeah.
We don't think that we're doing them, but it's really important to become aware that you have choice. Like if you have choice to stop yourself from hitting yourself, you have choice to stop yourself from inflicting attack thoughts on your psyche, on you, in your consciousness. To allow them in your consciousness is a choice. And what we're doing here is we're finding that choice. It may appear there's no choice, but when you turn on the light, like if it's completely dark, you may say, well, I don't know, there doesn't seem to be a door out of here. But you turn on the light, suddenly, boom, there it was. It was always there. Now you see it. Now you turn it and you can get out.
Yeah, I like the light of awareness, specifically like flooding this moment, because this moment, like you mentioned, is always safe. And anxiety is where you're not safe. So I think you had also mentioned that when you shine the light, if you shine it bright enough, first step is the only step that you need, which is to bring awareness to it. And you mentioned that the dark or nothing can survive in the light of awareness because the light of awareness is always life affirming. So like those things that you mentioned to check, it's like, am I breathing? Yes, I'm alive. Like there's nothing here that's taking away from life in any way, shape, or form.
Yeah. So that life affirming, what I really mean by that is like that sense of like, if you're aware that you're, let's say, holding a hot coal or you just touched the stove and you're not aware, but then suddenly you're aware, you're like, whoa, that is the life affirming quality of consciousness. It will preserve its well-being if you allow awareness. Of course, if you don't allow it, let's say you have a bowl of fruit and all of those fruit are poisoned with something, and you're just eating those, there is no awareness. And so it cannot act. It cannot preserve your well-being in that way. So literally it's about like opening up this aperture and really seeing like what is really, really, really going on here. I'm here in my room. I'm feeling all of these things. Where is its source? Is somebody coming in and like injecting me with this feeling? Is somebody giving me a box of it? Right? No. And so as you break this down, you suddenly wake up. And that is actually, I would say that is the most accurate way to really talk about it, because we are almost like in these little spindles of dream throughout our day. Like that's what this thought journey is, this anxiety sense of like this worry. We're like in there and then boom, we're back here and suddenly everything's okay.
Yeah, to be honest, that's an amazing tip, and I hope you guys are really enjoying this content. I know if you YouTube how to resolve anxiety or anxiety meditation, you'll get some weird playlists that you can try to listen to and try to bring awareness to, but it might not help you. So we maybe at the end of the episode, if we have time, we can talk about some meditations for anxiety or some like mindful breathing for anxiety. But for now, maybe we can go back to a couple of like real life examples, because this is all really easy to say. Yeah, shine the light of your awareness, but everybody has their different idea or different abilities to step back from what they think is happening in their awareness within. So maybe we'll give a few tangible examples that the audience can relate to. Like I'll give you one. So I won't have enough money to pay tomorrow's bill. Let's see if we can tackle this.
Yeah. So this is a very common one, right? Financial anxiety. Basically, very similar thing is happening, right? We slow down and say, okay, well, what is going on here? Okay, I am looking to a future. Basically, like first of all, like I'm not paying attention to what's happening now. Your only power to make any difference is right now. Like to make a decision about your what you can do to improve your financial well-being is not going to be at all supported by your beheaded state. You know what I mean? Is like we talked in the beginning, because like your prefrontal cortex is like literally as if you get a lobotomy. So you're going offline in an attempt to help yourself, right? Like, because the essence of it, we got to really tune into the intention. What is the intention? The intention is you want to create more money, right? You want, like, there's financial stress. It's like, how do I make sure that I have enough supply to meet my needs? Okay, so you have two factors there. You have your supply and you have your needs. Both of them are arbitrary and kind of like up to you to decide on how you want to navigate. But the last thing you want to do is depart from this moment into like this experience of self-attack, blame, trying to like blame somebody else or the government or this. You're literally in all of those moments, all of those thoughts are about like you affirming that you have no power. Anxiety is in essence affirming that you have no power to make a difference in this situation. It's just like, I am damned. So
let's just keep hitting myself. It's easier.
So let's cut through. Let's say, okay, you don't have enough money to pay for your bills. So what? Then what's going to happen? Tomorrow comes, you still don't have the money. Oh, okay. Well, what will happen? You will just take that bill and do nothing. That's what will happen, and you continue on with your day, right? Hopefully, you're kind of having some goals, some vision about what you're actually doing here, and you say, okay, well, I don't have enough money to pay this month's bills. Let me focus on getting that money for the end of the month or for whenever I can. So the best step that you can do is to come back to the present moment, to resource yourself, to really, again, do the same exact process. Well, what am I doing here? I'm thinking about something. I'm thinking I won't have enough money. And you say, is that true? It is true. Well, what are you making it mean? What does it mean if I don't have enough money? What does it mean? And then you might start to dig and you start to say, oh, it means I'm a failure. I'm not a good father. I'm not a good provider. And all of a sudden you find out what was behind all of this is a tremendous fear of judgment, tremendous fear, tremendous shame. And you're trying to just avoid that. And you think that by taking action to avoid fear, shame, and judgment, you're going to somehow create something that is your best work, that is your best ability to deliver a result. No. This cannot be. Your best ability will be when you are fully resourced, when you are present, when you are actually aware of your resources, of what's possible to you in this moment. And the way you do that is by working your way back to this moment, saying, okay, yeah, so I all of this thing means that, right? And you say, well, is it absolutely true that if I don't pay the bill tomorrow, that I'm a bad provider, poor father, failure as a man? Is it absolutely true? Do I know with the certainty of God that that's what absolute reality would mark me as? No, I don't know, right? And we start to break it down. All you want to do is you want to make a little crack, a little chink in that wall, which is like the seemingly super complete story about exactly what's happening and what will happen and who you are. And you say, well, is it really? And then boom, a little opening. This is enough. Right? A little opening gives you some room for doubting this whole world of anxiety. And now you're saying, okay, great. Well, and then you can apply the next exercise of awareness, pour your awareness into what is possible, which is like, what are 25 ways that I can make this amount of money that I need to pay this month's bill and next bill, and also the things I need? What is that amount? Figure it out, right? 5,000, 10, whatever it is for you. What are 25 ways that I can make that money this month? That will be your next level of resourcefulness. Now you're pouring your awareness into what you actually want. You're empowering yourself. You're making those connections. You're thinking outside the box. 25 ways is hard to come up with. You may come up with 5, but you don't stop. You keep going, and you are pulling this out of you. And suddenly, when you have 25 ways to do exactly what you want to have accomplished, you will feel this renewed sense of confidence. You will feel like clarity. You will feel like, oh man, I can't believe an hour ago, I was like pulling my hair out thinking I was the worst person in the world. Now I can feel like, holy moly, I have like this amazing power. I can do that. And now you're coming from a different consciousness of like, I have, I can, I will, instead of I don't have, I'm a failure, I'm, all of this.
Amazing, Boris. So good. There's your A to Z guide in case you have any money issues, which is a lot of people in the world. So thank you so much for that. Yeah, it's almost like this universe has again this inherent property of anxiety, which forces us to move to. It's like this tension. It's in the universe, right? It's the holding of action, almost like action is
Yeah.
anxiety in a way. So
Let's honor anxiety too, because I remember in the beginning we didn't really maybe go into this question. You brought it up, it's like, what is its benefit? Like, what is its function? Like, why is it actually here? Because everything here is to serve our awakening. It's to serve our highest emergence into greater and greater consciousness, greater and greater life, world without end. Right? It's this expansion. So uh, anxiety, one of the ways that we can look at it beneficently, it's like it's an alarm. It's basically like you fell asleep, right? You get to a certain level of sleep, there's an alarm that starts to go off. It starts to say, hey, lady, hey, dude. And it's trying to get your attention. But we give it attention typically, and then we say, oh no, this is the only state, and then we fall even deeper into it. So we don't want to do that. We want to just literally recontextualize in our mind, oh, anxiety is here to show me that I'm in a moment of growth. I'm in a moment of transformation. This is a moment of enlightenment for me. This is a moment of empowerment. This is like that moment where I can make a difference. So you just like, instead of like fumbling and falling through it, you're just like, okay, all right, let me bring my awareness, my power to this moment. What is it that you want me to know? What is it that I'm here to do? Right. And you can use many of these strands that we already offered in this time to start to like pull yourself up, up, up. So start to look at anxiety as your friend saying to you, hey, brother, hey, sister, I got you. Watch out. Like here's your time to wake up, right? Don't keep going further down this way. That's what it's saying.
mm. It reminds me of that one of my mentors said, I'm sure a lot of people have heard this. It's like another word you can use for anxiety is just like excitement. It's like this anxious feeling that you get, and you can just label it differently and be like, "Whoa, I'm getting excited," and there's like a nervous feeling.
And then thinking from excitement, right? Which is a different state, a different energy. So yeah, if you can make that quick shift, like, oh yeah, I'm feeling excitement. What am I excited about, right? And connect that, because what are you excited about in that moment of financial stress? You're like, oh, I'm excited because I'm about to have a financial breakthrough. Like you
Mm.
guide it. Like don't be kind of like silly in it. Like, oh, I'm excited now. Yeah, this is just excitement. But you don't actually feel excited. You're like you're like about to pass out from like hyperventilation. That's not it. It's literally about you bringing your consciousness. Like you need to know that it's excitement, and you need to know why it's excitement, and not just like stick a label on it and pretend while inside you don't actually believe it. That won't solve it. So we are actually stepping into the state of excitement. And you're asking yourself, well, why am I so excited right now? And thinking from it instead of like thinking of excitement as something like you're trying to bring and paste. Yeah.
Awesome. Okay, I'm not going to let you off that easy. We've gone through this pretty quick. So we're going to go through one more example. So obviously the things that cause the most amount of stress, anxiety, even depression is money and relationship. So let's use example number 2. So let's see how close we can get. The example is my partner's in the next room and they're about to leave me.
Mm-hmm.
So we had a fight or something and it's coming down to this. Whew.
Yeah. Yeah. A lot of different things right in that moment, like all of the sunk cost. Oh, but I was here for so long. We did so many things together, like, can I imagine my life without him? Like all of these different like things and flavors of like, what will be if not this, right?
Mm.
But I want to bring it back even closer to our own intimacy, like within ourselves, which is what I mentioned before, that like yes and no within us, right? It's like typically in these moments, it's not just that your partner comes up and like, I'm fighting with you and I might leave. Like that's not what happens. It's typically like we fight or we have our conflict when we are not when we have inner conflict. So it could be that our partner has inner conflict about like, maybe you're not offering something in a relationship. Maybe this woman wants to be married or they want to have children and you're like, oh, I'm not so sure, right? And it's creating in them this conflict. I love this man, but I also want children. I feel that this is my destiny. I want marriage. I want children. So they're not sure. One says yes, one says no, and they have this inner conflict. And you may check in with yourself. Very typically, when we are in relationship, we will also have our mirror counterpart. It may not look exactly like theirs. It may not be between children and being with you, but on this end, it may look like something like, oh, like, does she just want me for, my money, or does she just want me to provide? What if she doesn't love me for me? Maybe I want somebody who really loves me for me and doesn't ask me for these different things, some other kind of like yes and no. So you're not even sure. Do I want to be here 100%? This is the thing to find out. So relationship anxiety really has to deals with like our clarity. Like, am I willing to be here no matter what? Like, is this like that moment where it's like, I'm not going to leave because I'm scared. Like, I am here. Of course, like if my life is threatened, I need to protect my life, if, this person and I, we're completely incompatible, and what we've had this conversation, we were able to explore it. Or if I really like, I tried so many times and this person just won't talk to me about this, and I really, really know within my own heart, I reached out every time I could, that kind of stability where your yes. Of course, like we can't force our yes on another person, but it. There's no anxiety in that. It's like, I know it. Okay, well, I'm willing to do anything, but if you're gonna leave, you're gonna leave. But here I am. I'm with you. Like, do you want to try again? Like, you want to have this conversation? So it's really in that realm. So let's take the relationship anxiety and say, okay, do I know my own yes and no? And if you're so clear on yours, you got to check in and have a listening ear for your partner. It's like when they make these ultimatums for you, for example, like, oh, if you don't, and then I'm going to leave, or, you got to say, well, actually, this sounds like it's very important for you, this topic, children or whatever it is. I want to talk to you more about this. And I also want I want to be able to share my views with you as well, so that we can really put our cards on the table and decide what's the best thing that's going to serve both of us, right? You can be that one that offers this space in relationship. So, but if it's just you in your own room, in your own, like, and you're just like tripping out, you're like, oh my God, I don't know if my partner loves me, if they're going to leave me, is it the right partner? Same steps again, like bring yourself back to what's happening. You're sitting on your bed, you're having lots of thoughts, you're feeling feelings. Take a deep breath. You're like, oh, okay, what's actually going on? I'm just sitting on my bed. I'm having thoughts and feelings. I am safe. I have what I need. Let me see what's actually happening. You start naming things. You're like, I'm in my room. I feel my breath. You bring yourself back to this moment. And then instead of trying to figure out something about the other person and whether, your judgments about them or their judgments or your defenses or whatever it is, yeah, okay, but where's my yes and no? So behold, in this state of like now, well, what is my yes and no? Do I really want to be with this person? Do I want to go through this? And you come to your own agreement when you're in agreement with yourself, when your I is single and you don't have this like, oh, this part of me pulls this way, this part that way. Oh man, you're going to come to this experience with such great resourcefulness that like your partner may be like, oh, here you are again, I can't. And you just like, you don't even care. Like for you, it's just like this full love. You can like hug them. You can say, you know what? I'm here to just listen to you. You can instantly diffuse it. There's no defensiveness, anything, because you are so clear. Or if it's a no, then you're clear. Last little bit in this, in the scriptures, they say something like this. It's like, be hot or cold, but not lukewarm. If you're lukewarm, I'm gonna spit you out. That's the words of God in I believe this is the Old Testament scriptures. But it's really talking about like our yes and no. When we are lukewarm, we are in this state of inner turmoil, which is not bad. It is actually another process, just like what we said that anxiety was. It's like your moment of transformation. It's like, boom, it's available to you now. You're about to go through it. Be excited. But at the same time, know that it's just your own inner conflict that's creating the anxiety. And it's only your own decision, your own clarity within to see what is my yes and no. And you may not even have it in a moment. Maybe you want to take a day. Maybe you want to take 5 days. It's not like, don't force yourself and don't judge yourself, but just be truly open and listening to what is true. That's what I would say.
Wow, that's amazing. And if you guys like what Boris shared there, please do check out our previous episode on relationships. It'll also give you a better understanding of what's happening in reality. So, yeah, it's really good.
I want to offer maybe one more because one more example, because we
Yeah.
talked about like wealth, relationships, but the other huge one, and this is the area I work in a lot, is health.
Mm.
Health. Like people really can experience tremendous anxiety when things are happening with their body. It's so real. It's so imminent. It's so uncontrollable, so to speak, because obviously like, all of the diseases appear very uncontrollable.
It hurts so much. It's so much suffering, man.
Yeah. I want to share a personal experience, recent one. I typically I feel very, very healthy. Typically, I'm in great shape, but I don't know if it was something I ate. I have no clue to this day what happened. But there was this one night, or one afternoon, I started to feel like, oh, maybe I have a little bit of sore throat. What is this? I'm not too sure. And then boom, boom, boom. It just seems to contract more and more. And I ended up that night with such excruciating pain in my belly that I was starting to feel so anxious. I'm like, am I having an appendix attack? Is something gonna burst inside and I'm gonna die? Like, should I be calling 911 or not? And it was just this moment. There's like sweat, there's pain, there's like this, and I tried to do many things. I tried to use some cannabis medicine. Like I tried to like do any, water. I took like some supplements. I'm like, what is gonna, nothing. It's just this intense, like purgatorial experience. Didn't seem to let up no matter what I did. And so I really felt that moment, a lot of fear, a lot of like anxiety, a lot of sense of like loss of control, not knowing what to do. And I have to say to you, like in this moment, something that helped me, which is very, different than what my partner normally would say, but I got to call my partner and I got to say, I'm like, wow, I'm just going through this. I didn't want to worry you, but now I'm starting to worry myself, and as we were talking, I came to this place. It's like, well, what is there to do? Like, yeah, I can take action from my fear and like try to call the ambulance, end up in a hospital. I'm like, oh man, I don't even want to do that. I honestly don't know if that's gonna really help me. So in that moment, it came this other dimension, and I want to offer this dimension of resolution of anxiety: to surrender, to surrender, to surrender to what? To surrender even to the worst possible outcome. So in that phone call, I just basically, it's like, what else can I do? It's like, maybe I will die. Maybe I will die. And I let go. I let go and said, okay, if this is it, let me prepare for this, and I just opened myself back up to the moment instead of having this like, no, 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 towards my experience. I'm not just saying my body was hurting, but like inner, like a mental resistance to it. I opened it and I said, okay, if this is my moment, this is my moment. I can be here. And I just let up the resistance. And when I let up the resistance, the pain was still there. But there was no more anxious thought. I wasn't trying to get into a future. I wasn't trying to predict worst case scenarios. I wasn't doing any of that. I was just like available for what's happening. And I want to highlight this. Sometimes we can be incapacitated to a great degree. Could be something physical, could be even mental. I mean, I know that I've been in some states which felt like it's impossible to get out of it. Like, there was one state also. I don't know if you remember that, Mike, but we had a business meeting with our lawyer and our accountant, and I was showing up from I was coming from home, and my partner and I just got into a huge fight. And I pulled up there. I was trying to do deep breathing. I was trying to do like heart math coherence. I was trying to remind myself in every way, because I'm about to go into a meeting with like three other men, and I am like out, like my heart is still going. I already drove to it. I pulled up. Okay, literally can't get through. What do you do? There was not even enough consciousness to say, well, look, I'm here, I'm okay. Sometimes you can't pierce. So in that moment, I want to offer you this other technique: surrender and just trust. Surrender and float downstream. There's a guy named Timothy Leary, part of the psychedelic movement in the 60s and 70s, and he gave this one advice to his students but this is in psychedelics. But I feel like actually every one of these moments of anxiety, stress, fear, these intense states, they are psychedelic states. They are literally like you are in a different state of consciousness. So his advice was, let go, relax, and float downstream. Just do this. Just like, okay, the moment is going to take you downstream. You will end up in tomorrow, or you will not. But you don't have to do a thing to get there. It's just going to carry you like a river. So you just relax, you let go, and you say, okay, I just trust that I'll either be there tomorrow or I won't. And you allow the state to burn itself out. In as much as possible, release the resistance, because that resistance of trying to stop it is the very thing that's keeping it in place, keeping it attached to you. You see, like as I'm pushing this hand, it's stuck to this other hand. So I can't never push this hand far enough to be free of it. So all of our resistance is always going to create this opposition, this stuckness. So at the very least, what surrender is, in essence, it's the release of resistance. We just say, okay, life, God, moment, self, chaos, whatever, you have me. You have me, you got me, I don't have any other moves, I surrender. And that is also a very powerful, could be transformational moment where you have a complete shift of consciousness, because it's now no longer coming from your little self trying to do things. In that moment, we can literally open up to grace in a very powerful way. So I just wanted to offer that last example too.
Yeah, that's amazing. Good perspective shift on like what we were talking about earlier, how anxiety is meant to cause more action or progress forward. Well, you can also surrender completely and let it flow. So that's interesting. I do want to stress the importance of actually, that story was quite intense of you potentially dying. I can relate to that because I got cyanide poisoning from a smoothie once, and I felt like I was going to die. And yeah, using all my yogic powers that I've gained over like 15 years, using all the meditation and breathing techniques, it was just like, nope, that deep primordial death is going to get you. And so the only thing you could do is surrender. Luckily, my cats came on and helped me along the way, little angels. But I do want to stress the importance of the body and the mind and the connection there. A lot of people have anxiety in the mind because of the stresses in the body, whether it's very subtle, maybe the body is not stretched enough for the day. You can almost look at animals and how they always, whenever there's like anxiety, I don't know if they experience, I'm sure they do experience anxiety, but they more so experience like real physical danger. So they experience something and then they'll like immediately just freaking like shake to like, yeah, get out all the stuck trauma in the body, and then they can move on with being present on a lake and float downstream, like you mentioned.
Yeah, I really like what you're saying. We can definitely use the body as an instrument of consciousness to prime ourselves in the direction that we want to go. Like even very simple things like stretching. Like if you stretch in your morning, if you even just do exercise, like whatever, you can do different things. You can exert your body in a way that actually creates calm, or you can stretch your body in a way that creates calm and space. And you prime yourself for a day where you are very likely to be more resourced at the moment when the challenge comes. I want to say this, like it's very important that as we're having this conversation about anxiety, that we don't use magical thinking to be like, there will be no more anxiety. There will be nothing that provokes my anxiety in the future. I need that kind of technique. No. That means that you're either dead or you stopped growing and you basically went into apathy. So we don't want to presume that. Instead, what we want to do is we want to say, like, imagine waking up in the morning and say to yourself, there will be challenges today and I can meet those challenges. I will be challenged in a way where it's going to provoke me to feel anxiety. If you are somebody who's been feeling this, I'm going to be challenged today in a way that's going to provoke anxiety, but I'm going to be ready for it. And here's how I'm going to prepare myself for it. I am practicing to meet that moment, just like you would if you were like a martial artist to meet your opponent, or like if you're an Olympic swimmer or whatever it is, you practice for that one moment. Why not you? Because this is your life, right? So you practice for that one moment, you prepare yourself and you say, I can do this. I can meet this moment. And there could be that very same day that you set your mind this way, that you meet something that used to trip you up. And you're like, I remember you. I remember. And you make a different choice. That different choice will butterfly effect into like a different life, basically. So I really want to encourage you to know in yourself that you will be challenged, but now you have the tools. This is the very best way that I found in approaching our challenges, approaching our problems, rather than trying to make sure that they're never there and avoid them or resist them or whatever else, really.
Nice. Yeah. And again, I think the last thing I want to say, just as a yoga teacher, just put it out there again, is that the body is so important. As above, so below. Don't separate the fact that you're an anxious person with the fact that you need to actually take a look at your body, because like you were saying with thoughts, it's like the only reason anxiety happens is because you have an inability to handle it. So when we look at the body, it's like, can you even handle your own body? If you can't bend down and touch your toes, your low back hurts and you're like stuck. Are you thinking that that's different than the stuckness in your mind? Because yeah, again, your body is your mind. So at least the tantrics say that, and I believe that wholeheartedly. So
Beautiful.
so handle your body, handle your mind, know that you're okay. Take a deep breath. Any
Yes.
last words of wisdom? I know we didn't really get into like mindful breathing or meditation for anxiety, but what are your thoughts?
Well, my thoughts are like, let's actually do a little bit of a prep. I want to offer this as a primer. So don't think about this. Certainly there's meditations, there's breath work you can do. You can do the 4 or the box breath, right? In for 4, hold for 4, out for 4, hold for 4. Very powerful. You are literally, you're conditioning, you're retraining your nervous system. But I am more concerned with you waking up to your own power and potential, and actually knowing that you can overcome these things. You know, it's like when we're children, we may look up the stairs and we say, oh my god, the stairs look so big, like I don't know, I can't get really up them. You know, we might cry, we may feel stuck downstairs and we want to go up. But at one point you realize there's that moment, right? And then the same moment when we learn to ride our bicycle, there's that moment where you suddenly know, I can handle it. I can. So you and we're here in this moment. This primer is really about you coming to that moment in your life where you're like, I can handle it. And you certainly, the practices that Mike has shared, I have shared, you can practice those to essentially prepare yourself more and more, body, mind, breath, all of that. But I want to just guide us here with this kind of initiation, that same thing of like opening the morning. So I want to invite you, if you feel comfortable, just close your eyes for a moment. And imagine that you are waking up into your new day. This is a new day. You just got up, maybe you just sit up in bed, and here we are. I want you to just take a deep breath. And begin to just talk to yourself, coaching yourself. This is very important. What we say to ourselves, what we say when we are talking to ourselves is so much more, perhaps even important than when we talk in conversation, in relationship. So just begin to say to yourself, like, okay, awesome, here we are. Good morning. Good morning. So this day is going to be an incredible, empowering day, because this day I'm going to meet challenges. I'm going to meet challenges that are going to provoke my anxiety. I'm going to meet challenges that will tempt me to act and behave in ways that I have in the past. But this is also the day where I'm bringing even more consciousness to my experience. I am illuminating it even more with my awareness. And this day, I'm going to handle these challenges even more skillfully, at least 1% better than I did yesterday. And then just, again, maybe take another breath and just consider your day. Allow the images of what is unfolding in your day, what you plan to have happen. Allow that kind of your expectations for the day to arise in your consciousness. Like you're going to get out of bed, you're going to have breakfast, you're going to see your kids or your partner, or your roommate, you're going to head to work. Just allow yourself to begin to kind of live that day in your mind. And at the same time, feel this presence of your more conscious self with you, and begin to just say to yourself, like, okay, so all that is going to unfold for me this day is I'm simply going to experience sensations in my body, thoughts in my mind, and emotions in my energy field. That is all that I'm going to encounter today. I'm only going to really encounter my thoughts, emotions, and sensations. Just take a moment, acknowledge that. All of your experiences of the day, the people, the conversations, the relationships, the decisions, all of them will boil down to just these 3 simple things: my sensations, my thoughts, and my emotions. And as you sit here, just see how you so very well can handle them. You're handling them right now. Right in this very moment, there's sensation in the body. You may feel tingling, you may feel heat or cold. No problem. You may also have thoughts. And as we're doing this exercise, there's thoughts. We're engaging our cognitive abilities. No problem. And you may also have emotions. And I want you to now, just to reinforce this a little bit, think back to those moments where you have had anxiety in the past and notice, without going into them, just notice that you made it through. You were there and now you're here. And so that means that you were able to transcend, you were able to pass through that experience. I want you to breathe in that confidence. I can feel emotions and I can get to the next moment. And once again, just now lift your gaze, your inner gaze up to your whole day and just feel and know about this, that these thoughts, these emotions, these sensations in my body that I'm going to experience throughout this day, I can handle them. I can face them. I know how to be resourceful. I know how to do a reality check to make sure that I'm not just caught up in my mind, that I'm grounded in the now moment. I know that I have everything that I need in this now moment. So just send this intention, this awareness, this consciousness, being conscious of the fact that you can, send it forth before you into your day. Just envision that there you are conscious in your conversations. You are getting now to the end of your day and you feel like, wow, this has been one of my best days. I feel like I'm growing today. And with that, maybe just we can take another deep breath, allow this awareness to integrate, and we can release it. And whenever you're ready, we can gently open our eyes. And about this, I just want to say that this is the priming. We are, instead of fortune telling and predicting something bad and how we can't, we are priming. We are intentionally leading ourselves from a higher place, from a place of greater resourcefulness throughout our day. And this is a very beautiful way for you to coach yourself, for you to be your own best friend, for you to allow that higher self voice to come through you and really make a difference to the way that you handle your day. If you try this in the morning, I promise you that day is going to be different. Of course, you may forget about this as you're moving through your day, but you try it again the next day, and this consciousness is going to grow in you and grow in you. And there's going to be a day where you're going to live that day consciously and have a tremendous amount of choice when it comes to these challenging moments. Yeah.
Amazing. Beautiful. Thank you, Boris. I love you. Thank you for listening, everybody. We love you so much. Make sure that you like, subscribe. This is going to keep flowing out of us. And hopefully we can help people. And feel free to reach out to us. We'll leave an email in the description below if you have any thoughts, comments, questions, some episode that you want to hear. We're down to talk about a lot of different subjects. So yeah, stay tuned. Any last words, Boris? Thank you again.
Just great gratitude. We believe in you. You believe in yourself. Just use this moment to really just take an anchor, take a stance for the fact that you have way more resources than you have been aware of, and see them. Just visualize, just imagine, just get the sense that they're coming into fruition. They're coming into bloom, and we're doing this together. So thank you so very much for joining us for the Conscious Experience. It's been our pleasure to serve you and to be with you through this time.
God bless everybody. Bye.
Bye-bye.